certifying badasses, one podcast at a time. Fear is the number one obstacle to success. Let's flip the format on your fear. A fighter trains with the best and wins with a KO. Kelly Orchard's podcast for successful badassery.
Yeah, that's right. It's like the podcast for successful badassery. Normally, it used to be called Wednesday Wisdom. I'm kind of having a reflection today because, as I was going over my notes, I realized, hey, wait a minute. I started brainstorming about this podcast a year ago, exactly today. Well, not today, actually yesterday. I think the first time I actually did some of the artwork was the last part of November. I think it was being bored over Thanksgiving weekend. That's what always happens to me. Never give me any free time, because if you give me free time, I'm going to just create something. It's because if I get bored, I am a creative person, and I just start to go into my imagination, and then the next thing I know, I have this whole new revelation of thing. And so the podcast for successful badassery is celebrating at least a year anniversary of the inception of the plan. So I am going completely scriptless for you today. I wanted to thank you for listening and tuning in last week, because that was the most downloaded podcast I've had this whole time, which kind of proves to me what a very wise person told me, who was trying to catch all of my podcasts and just said it's overwhelming, it's too many, sometimes too much, a lot is too much. So I've pared it back, and I realized when I pare it back, more people want to listen. So hey, there you go. If you want me every day, you can hop on over to Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day podcast, which is 60 seconds. It's so doable. I did them 60 seconds deliberately because you have that much time span for attention, don't you? About a minute. I got about a minute for you. So I gave you a minute to digest some positivity in your life, in your daily consumption of media that you allow to come into your life. Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day. Like they say, if an apple a day will keep the doctor away, Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day will keep the crazy away. So the month of December is going to be all about kind of letting go and having an extraordinary life. So we've been through a really rough time, and that's why I wanted to go scriptless today, just to kind of give you an update and some feedback on some of the things that I'm seeing with my clients. And obviously, it's resonating with you because you're coming to the podcast. I'm seeing the uploads, and I want to thank you for being one of the handful of listeners that I have. Actually, a little bit more than a handful, but that's okay. The platforms for podcasting are so noisy right now. There's a lot of competition because it's like anybody now can be a radio star, or they can put out their information, or they can have chats and put out whatever that they're putting out. And it no longer, it used to be, in the radio business, when someone said they had a radio show, we'd ask what radio station, and if it ended with .com, then that's not really radio. But now you can say you're a podcaster, and you could podcast on any platform. I had the client tell me they were doing a podcast. Well, where do you publish it? On YouTube. Okay, that's not a podcast. That's YouTube videos. But now they've called it, podcasting. And I got news for you. Radio invented podcasting. They did. They didn't call it podcasting, though. Back in those days, they called it public affairs shows. So, yeah, I talked to my radio friends about it now, and they understand and they get it, but many of them never worked in that part of the industry. And so they are sort of lost when you say, why don't you just air it on the radio? Why do you have to go find it on a podcast? Because it's on demand. Okay, well, then you could still publish it on the podcast, but can't you publish it on the radio? So those of us who just want to hear it now can hear it now. We don't have to go save it for later. I don't know. Nothing makes sense to me anymore. And I think that's sort of the point of this. Did your world turn upside down over the past year or so? Yes. Most of us have. And some of us are you're doing well maybe in your business, but your home life has been demolished, or vice versa. Home life is flourishing, but you've lost your business. Or maybe you have so much downtime that you're trying to reinvent and create something new for yourself, but you're lost and you don't know where to go, because what are the options? Why do I know this about you? Because you're not alone. Because this is what I work with every single day. and it's an honor and it's a pleasure. Like the podcast that I developed with this one that you're listening to right now, the podcast for successful badassery. It's 1 year later, and when I was brainstorming, and the reason I'm telling you this is that your ideas evolve over time. I had the apple a day, but it just didn't seem like enough. And I really wanted to be able to talk about badass, and apples aren't badass. Apples are an essential ingredient to the badass plan, but apples by themselves are not badass, right? Okay, so I needed something else. And, it's always about that marketing gimmick, that thing that makes you unique, that's going to make a difference. Now, as you're listening to this podcast, you're like, I'm not a marketer. That's not who I am. Or maybe it is you. It's still about your own personal brand. Even if you're not working, you still have something that you represent. You still have something that you offer the world. Otherwise, why are you here? Okay? So you do still have something to offer. And so the reason why I wanted to bring up this podcast and how it has evolved from a year ago to today. So when I first began it, I was pre-recording. Well, obviously a podcast is pre-recorded, but I was pre-recording almost the whole month of podcasts in advance. So I had Mustang Monday, and thankfully I had so many episodes already of Mustang Monday that I was able to repurpose some of those and just plug them into the podcast. Because remember, this is the height of COVID. We're all locked down. I can't get somebody to get into my car. So I was grateful to have the Mustang Monday. So I was able to just repurpose Mustang Monday. That takes it off of just the YouTube, and now it becomes an actual legit podcast. Well, then I thought, okay, well, Wednesdays is good. I can do a Wednesday wisdom, and that is where I'll focus on the acronym for the badass program. The be yourself. Attitude is everything. Decide to grow. Practice self-awareness. Be steadfast in your plan, and you will be successfully badass. That is how the badass acronym works. And my first intention was each month I'll go through on Wednesdays bits and pieces of the actual acronym. And just in case you wanted to, get your license to be badass, and then Fridays, I thought, okay, I can repurpose some of the apples so the people that don't know about the apple a day, I can have Fruitful Friday and do some weekend vibes and send our listeners off into the weekend with, some wonderful words of wisdom and some ideas on how you can make your weekend really fruitful. Well, it worked out for a while, for months. And so then May came, and I moved into here, Michelle's place. And so during the month of May, there was just no way I could physically, mentally focus on keeping the podcast up. So I took a month of May off. And then I re-energized, and I brought it back in June. And then, but the thing about the Mustang, so what I bought a truck a while ago. So now the Mustang's not running very well. I've realized now, after talking to several people, it's probably a problem with the alternator. This is a 15-year-old car, so it's never given me any problems. The only problem I've ever had with the Mustang is that it drains the battery, and I just joke because she goes so fast just sitting still, she drains the battery. However, it's become problematic for me now because I have to jumpstart it every time I want to drive it, and not very convenient. So anyway, new Mustang Mondays have not been really going on a regular, consistent basis for the last couple of months. Maybe you've noticed, maybe you're just new here and you had no idea. I have met people recently here where I live where they see me and they're like, "You're the lady in the Mustang." Wow, I haven't had that happen to me since I was on the radio in Victorville with my family's radio station, where I could go to the grocery store, and if I even opened my mouth, the checker knew my voice and said, "You're Kelly Orchard." Yeah, I know. I used to get that all the time. Now I've got, "You're the lady in the Mustang." I got to tell you, it's fun, and it's branding. It is who I am. Anyway, and then so the Mustang, I haven't had new ones done, and then a very wise, my sidekick Jennifer was sharing with me how she loves the podcast, but struggles to be able to catch every single one of them with her busy schedule. This seems to be a lot of people's problems when you have a professional world, is that you don't have the time, or you're not able to take the time, or you don't know that you should take the time to practice some self-care and feed your mind, your body, and your spirit with something positive every day. But it did make sense to me, so I decided, all right, I'm going to skip Fruitful Fridays now because that's just repurposing the apple a day, and I've already done those. So I'll just start telling my audience about Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day podcast and let them go find it, which you have. And so that's how the evolution goes. So now I'm only doing this right now, the podcast for Successful Badassery on Wednesdays. So guess what? I have to change all of my graphics, and I've got to go in and edit some of the Bobby Ocean liners that he provided for me. Yes, we call them ocean liners. Get it? I know you get it. You don't need me to explain the joke to you, but his name is Bobby Ocean, and he does these liners, one-liners, which is what they're called in the radio business or in the in the voice tracking business. So they're ocean liners. So anyway, I have to maybe edit some of those because I don't need him to revoice anything. Or I might send him I don't know, we'll see. But see, this is the evolution. This isn't a failure. This is actually a success because I noticed that by me doing less of the podcasts over the last month or so, I think it's only been a few weeks, a month since I haven't done Fridays, and the Mustang's not running, so I'm not getting it out there to get somebody into it. I had Tracy Steffen says, I'll come to the Mustang and we'll sit in your dead car. I don't care. I might just take her up on that because it would be hilarious to talk about that, but I'm not going to let the car sit there that long. So that's how the evolution of the podcast for Successful Badassery has occurred, and it's 1 year from its inception this month. And I was out trying to gather up some music and contact Bobby to get the introduction going, writing my content, conceptualizing, started learning how to record and edit and publish onto the platform that distributes it. It is a process. And it's been a learning process for me, and it's been a fun one. And I hope that you have enjoyed listening to them as they have evolved. If you scroll back, if you go to listen to any of the previous podcasts, the content is still very relevant. I just talk about my programs. I talk about, I give you some tips. I read some articles to you. I share some Apple a Day. It's just all positive, and we definitely talk music. So in fact, the first month of the podcast, I was sharing with you a lot of the same stories that I share in the Badass Certification class so that you can familiarize yourself with exactly what I do. So like I said, the noise of the platform. So I am just very grateful that you've discovered the podcast for Successful Badassery, and I thank you to take it one step further and share it with some friends of yours. Because if you're going to be badass, you need to be hanging out with other badass people. Speaking of badass people, so you know that a week or so ago, before Thanksgiving, I had my first live and in-person Badass Certification class here at Michelle's Place. 25 people showed up. Proceeds went to Michelle's Place. Tons of fun, and it's got me on another music sampling kick. So I talk music in the class. That's what it's about, is to teach you how to create your badass soundtrack and what it means to you and how it can change your brain chemistry and rewire yourself for happiness. Doesn't that sound great? It's totally fun, and I use music. So I practice what I preach. Believe me, if I didn't, I would be like a lot of people and just going off the rails with what's been happening in our world around us. And so these tools that I have developed, and that's why I say it's not that I'm just badass all by myself. It's because of the tools that I implement, and I'm handing these tools to you with gratitude because I love them. Music is awesome to process things, and this is using some actually physiological techniques. Your body keeps score. So we're going to try to erase some of these traumas from your body by using techniques from heart math and neuroscience and positive psychology and practicing with music. So there's a group of very eclectic group of people at the Badass Certification class. And so, we're also talking different age demographics as well. I think that we went anywhere from, there were young 20-somethings up all the way to 60-somethings. Yeah, 20 to 60 years old. That's pretty much the demographic, 20 to 65. Yeah, that's who enjoys this class. So we talk, there's a lot of different music genres and that are brought up. So somebody mentioned Neil Sedaka. Well, Neil Sedaka, that's definitely the 70s. And so I've been on this sampling Neil Sedaka for the past week, and really enjoying it. I always used to think that I was kind of lame for loving Neil Sedaka so much, but I think I have the same. I think my voice range is about the same as Neil Sedaka, so I can sing his songs. So some of those female, I'm kind of an alto, but I'm like a second soprano in that way, where I could go kind of high, but I can't get the real high. So I have to be a little bit lower, but I can go low. So I can be an alto, but I'm at like a second soprano. Why do I know this? Because did you know? I don't share this very often, but I spent 3 years in the Glee Club in junior high school. Yeah, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. I loved it. I loved the Glee Club. In fact, in 9th grade, which is the only year that the instructor would give the choral music award, is to a 9th grader who has been dedicated to the group and stayed with it from the beginning, and standards and blah blah blah, whatever the reason is to be awarded this. I got that award in 9th grade, and I loved the Glee Club. So I was always a second soprano. I was always the section leader. I was the one that could remember the different melodies that we had to when we did songs. And so when Neil Sedaka comes on, of course I love the melody and I love the harmony. So I loved Neil Sedaka. So it's like, so if you're a Neil Sedaka, if you know of Neil Sedaka, what's your favorite song? Is it Laughter in the Rain? Or Breaking Up Is Hard to Do? I love the fast version that he does. He's kind of like a doo-wah-diddy, but he has the slower version, but he does the doo-wah-diddy, beforehand, and then it goes into the slow piano ballad. Oh, it kills me. I love that. I love that transition there, because you think it's going to be a happy song, and I'm not going to sing it for you. I could, but I'm not going to. But then it goes into slow ballad, and of course I love Bad Blood, because basically it's like, dude, you screwed up. She's a bad woman. It's like, glad it's you, not me. So anyway, the Neil Sedaka thing was a lot of fun to kind of discover again. So what... And I think that is actually the feedback. The most of the feedback that I'm getting from a lot of the attendees is the music discovery. I had a client say, talking about, because I go into deep issues with people in private, not in the class. In the class, it's all positive, but in certain environments, we'll talk about the other deep issues. And so, someone's trying to find a song that can represent a certain family period of time or an activity that they were doing with their father at a certain, year. So realizing what the year was, and then what about that time, what kind of music would they have been listening to while they were doing this activity? That's exactly how it goes. So it's the holidays. Holidays are very hard for people. December 1st, here we are. Holidays can really stir up a lot more anxiety and depression than the rest of the year. And given the fact that we've all been through quite the roller coaster ride over the course of the last, I don't know, it's almost been 2 years now. Can you believe it? Actually, I can. And then when this first began, I really had this internal feeling that this is never going to end. This is our life as we know it changed forever. And I think that I still think that applies. So while you're here with me and you're listening to this, let me just say to you that, number one, you're not alone in how you're feeling. If you're feeling a little topsy-turvy or upside down, I'm right there with you. And during the holidays, I want you to focus on music that creates a sense of happiness and joy for you. Now, if it's holiday songs that make you sad, then by all means don't listen to the holiday songs, but it's going to be really hard to avoid. So the next step then would be to make new memories. Create new happy memories so that the holidays don't always have to be so sad and stressful. I was so thrilled to be able to make a shift when I had children to celebrate Christmas with, and each year was a whole new surprise and everything for them. But now my children are grown and they have grown kids. They have children of their own, so I have grandchildren. But it's not my role to be in every single special moment of these children's lives for the holidays. All that magic. That's the parents' role. The parents get to do that. But my role's different now. So I get to create new memories. And that's what I'm doing, is creating new memories, making new ones. So that way, so that the next year and the year after that and the year after that, I can call upon this particular year rather than go back to the years past that seemed, or that I had imagined, were much better than now. Because we lose loved ones, or we lose homes, or we move, or things change, and it's just not the same as it used to be. It's not meant to be. Life comes at us in seasons, and seasons change. Sometimes seasons are warm and happy and good, and sometimes seasons are stormy and difficult and challenging. I don't know what kind of season you've been in for the last few months, year, whatever. The kind of seasons in our lives that I'm talking about are not the weather seasons that change every 3 months. So you can't expect the season to change by the date in this instance. But if you're in a dark season right now, I just want you to know that it will change. I don't know when, but it will. But it will shift a whole lot quicker if you start looking for things to be grateful for, even though things might be dark. So that's why I want to encourage you to make some new memories and try to do it with music. Like some of the things that I do with my grandkids is random dance parties. So maybe that's something that you want to do, is start a random dance party with your grandkids. Oh, I don't know. Maybe you don't have grandkids, or maybe you're going through a divorce, or maybe you've lost a loved one and you're just not feeling too dancey right now. That's okay. Find something else. Make a new memory. Maybe it's just going to sit on Santa's lap because you're a grown-up and you don't normally do that. Or, maybe I'm going to take a long drive into the mountains, even though here in Southern California, it's 80 degrees. So, where there's not going to be any snow skiing this season, I don't think. At least, maybe we should do something, special with that. I don't know, but I just want that. I'm just giving you some ideas on make new memories, but make it simple. Because simplifying is pretty badass, and that's what I intend to do. For example, the memory that I'm going to be making is, I share about my daughter, my middle one. She moved to Texas, and so I've been to Texas a few times. Well, if you've listened to the podcast for a while, I've been to Texas out to visit them. So, but I flew there, but this time I got this new truck, and the intent is to buy a trailer to tow behind the truck. So this is going to be my first drive out to Texas. I don't have the trailer yet. I'm just driving the truck, and I will be taking some belongings to my daughter that she left behind before they moved out there. Whole new memory for me, something new to look forward to. It's an entirely new plan, and I've never done this before. So I am really excited about this holiday season for the first time in I don't know how many years. So that's what I wanted today to be about for you as we head into full-blown holiday season. We've got every Wednesday, I will be giving you a new podcast for successful badassery. I used to call it Wednesday Wisdom. It's still going to be like that, all wisdom. Today's December 1st, so it's the first day. And we're just going to kind of go through some things to help you get through the holidays so that your holiday is successfully badass. How does that sound? But in the meantime, I really want to encourage you to snag Badass Habits ebook from my website. That's right. If you do that, it's going to help you really get started on focusing on some new things, new fresh ideas that you can try. So if today's podcast wasn't enough for you for ideas, the Badass Habits ebook will give you plenty.
You're kind of like a radio station, playing good stuff or negative stuff. Choose positive and turn up the volume, badass. Snag your Badass Habits ebook. Get started on your badass journey. Go to licensed2bebadass.com.